Can we start with your advice to this convention and to the federal party on energy? You are proposing carbon pricing, and you're saying that the federal party should get over its reservations about carbon pricing. What kind of system are you proposing?
Well, I think if you look at conservative parties that have been successful, they've embraced the environment. I think one of the mistakes we can learn from is we can't run from the environment. Canadians expect us to have a response to the challenge of our generation in climate change. And I look at Brian Mulroney and Ronald Reagan on acid rain leadership. You look at David Cameron on carbon pricing and the challenge of climate change in the United Kingdom, successful. You look at carbon pricing being embraced now by the Manitoba PCs, by the British Columbia Liberal Party. We can't put our head in the sand. And what I've been advocating in Ontario is that we put a price on carbon, but it's a taxpayer's dividend. That yes, polluters pay, but every cent that is collected goes back in broad-based tax relief, rather than the Liberal approach, which is a cash grab in Ontario, $1.9 billion cash grab to justify bigger government. I think we can have a conservative response on the environment.
So this would be similar to the system in British Columbia, which was a pioneer, which basically channeled most of it back to tax cuts.
Yeah, and what I like about the British Columbia system is that all the money stays in BC. What's happening in Ontario, they're joining the Western Climate Initiative. So by 2020, we send $300 million to California. By 2030, $3 billion in emission credit purchases, which essentially means we're subsidizing Beverly Hills and Malibu. I want to make sure the money that's raised through carbon pricing stays in Ontario to strengthen businesses, to strengthen individuals.
Okay, so it's only been about a year since you left the federal party and became the leader of the Ontario party, and then won your seat in Toronto at Queen's Park. A year ago, when you remember the federal party, this was a party that was very, you mentioned it, but what caused this new, renaissance and this new change of ideas in your part?
Well, I think being leader of the party, you're able to speak freely exactly as you feel, and obviously I respected the team approach that existed in Ottawa, but I love leading in the way that I feel sincerely in my heart is the right direction. I can tell you when I was a student, I got interested in politics because I wrote a letter about acid rain in elementary school. I've always cared about the environment, and I think now I'm able to show that.
Do you have a level or a price that you would, what would the carbon pricing be? Do you have a level?
So we launched our forontario.ca, which is our policy development process, to get advice on what that level should be, what market works best. Obviously, we're studying what's happened in British Columbia, and if those levels are correct. But I'd say, those details will come in our policy platform closer to the election.
So what happens when people launch the same or basically put the same accusation that the federal government did to the federal Liberals and say, call this a tax on everything? Carbon pricing is a tax on everything. It's going to stunt the economy.
Well, I think conservatives need to evolve and mature, and I think not having that conversation on the environment was a mistake. And for those that tell me putting a price on carbon is wrong, I'm going to say that inaction is not appropriate, and that climate change is a threat. It's man-made, it's irrefutable, and if you believe that, like I do, to say we're going to do nothing is unacceptable.
Okay, the other thing, you're talking about a wider appeal of the party and a broader base and a bigger tent, whatever you want to call it. Another thing that you've experimented with in the Ontario party, and that is opening up in terms of diversity, in terms of same-sex marriage. Advice to the federal party? There's a motion that's going to be debated here, voted on. Any advice?
Well, one of the reasons I came here was to speak in favor of marriage equality. For me, and I've said this very clearly in Ontario, it doesn't matter who you love, it doesn't matter where you're born, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, how much money you have, even if you belong to a union. You all have a home in the conservative family. And if the party wants to be a modern, inclusive, conservative alternative, if we're out of touch from the mainstream on equality, on personal freedom, I think the party will be permanently in opposition.
Have you had to make the same calculation, though, that some federal conservatives are making? We just saw the debate this morning. The same calculation, that is that there are social conservatives who may walk, who may go to, say, the Christian Heritage Party or something, if they feel that this party no longer represents their values.
Well, at the end of the day, you have to do what you feel is right, and I believe that marriage equality is right. It's long overdue, and if anyone walks because of that, so be it. I'm not going to avoid doing the right thing simply because some people may leave. I can tell you, I think it's actually been the opposite. We might have had a few people leave the party when I was the first PC to lead an official delegation in the Toronto Pride Parade last year. A few people might have left the party, but I can tell you hundreds more joined and said, finally we have a modern, inclusive, pragmatic, progressive, conservative alternative to the government.
So more progressive and inclusive and diverse in terms of social policy, more of an advocate in terms of environmental policy. Anything else, because you watched as the federal campaign went off the rails 7-8 months ago. Any advice for the party in terms of other things that can correct?
Well, you know what? My advice would be less partisan. There's no monopoly on a good idea. If another party puts forward a good idea, embrace it. Don't immediately avoid it. There's too much of a hostile partisan atmosphere in Ottawa, and I think it would be healthy to show more of an open mind and frankly, frame what we're going to do in a positive. We don't need to define ourselves on not being the other party. I think the politics of negativity doesn't work as well in Canada, and that I can tell you in my by-elections in Ontario, you know, we're not focused on attacking the government through negative ads. All our ads have been focused on what we're going to do to make Ontario prosperous again.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for taking the time, and I know people will be listening to you with great interest here at the convention. Thanks for speaking with us.
My pleasure. Anytime.